what's the one or two things you would initially tell a couple that's in this situation? They're hearing your story. What's maybe just one or two pieces of advice that you would give initially to those couples, whether they're contemplating divorce or they're contemplating restoring the marriage?
I would just encourage people, like, look within yourself. It's really hard to not focus on the relationship when you're in a crisis or you're in a struggle because, you know, you're married. But, like, if you can just focus on you, make sure you're physically, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually healthy and whole.
You seek him, and if you find her in the process of that and you reconcile, then that's just gravy on the cake.
So walk me through, because if I remember your story correctly, there's a moment you had, like, you're coming to generation, you're separated, she hasn't started coming yet, but there was a moment, right? There's a moment in how you responded to her or something you said to her that kind of started leading to, like, these steps or these pieces of, like, well, maybe the path is not divorce. Maybe the path is, let's just see where this goes towards reconciliation.
Can I tell that one?
Sure.
Because he called me.
The morning after, right?
I don't know, it was a day or two after, I don't remember, but he called me at work, and I'm expecting, you know, all the same emotions from before. And he said, I know who you are. And he said, if I had been the husband that I should have been for the last 10 years, I don't think that you would have even been in the position to make the choices that you made, and I'm sorry for that.
Wow.
And I didn't know what to say.
You're like, new number, who this?
Yeah. You know, because, I mean, we go from, like, being blamed to everything to, like, now he's, you know, not owning my mistakes, but, like, the part that he played in it. And, it was just, he had said already, like, I had started to see, like, a softening in him, too, that, I mean, it wasn't like I won't say it was like a pull toward him, but it was relief, you know, from all the tension. It's like, okay, I can breathe for a second. And so that, had that moment not happened, I don't know if there would have been a turnaround. Like, it was such a big, I felt accepted and seen for the first time ever from him.
And this wasn't even like I'm trying to win you back thing. This was just a, like, man.
He said, whatever you decide to do, I just want you to know I'm standing beside you.
Wow.
And honestly, like, and this is what I challenge men with that are walking through the same thing. Stop trying to pursue her. Because, like, if she's telling you she wants space, give her space. Like, and guess what? I didn't want to have to say those words.
Sure.
I didn't.
The pride, man.
The pride, but at the same time, like, if they stop chasing her and they chase Christ, and if they find Christ and they don't find her, you still win everything.
Yeah, man. Whew. That's a word right there, Michael.
You still gain everything. And I remember, like, having a conversation, and it was with my brother-in-law. He said, and he told me, he said, guess what? Like, because he knew, like, what was happening in my heart. My sister and brother-in-law in that time, like, were such, like, good sounding boards for me, healthy, emotionally healthy sounding boards for me in that moment, in that entire season. And, like, he told me, he said, like, if your marriage falls up, if, like, this ends in divorce, the sun's still going to come out tomorrow, and God is still good.
Wow.
And, like, I believed it. And, like, whenever I tell Kara, like, hey, like, I forgive you, I still love you, like, for the first time in my life. And I don't think, because she wouldn't even entertain real conversations with me throughout the entire time. I really think, like, that morning, whenever I can tell you where I was. I was in the Hardee's parking lot on Long Hollow Pike in Goodlettsville. I pulled off the interstate going to work, and, like, I sat there and I told her that I loved her. And for the first time, like, it meant something different. Like for the first time, like it had nothing to do with me.
Well, for the first time, he had nothing to gain.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything to gain. And because I knew like because I believed like I'm about to tell her this, it's going to fall on deaf ears. I'm still going to say it because I do, like I love her.
Yeah.
And like I truly meant, like when I told her I forgave her, whenever I told her that I would stand beside her, it didn't mean it wasn't going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
But what it meant was like I'm going to support her. And I'm still going to be standing for my marriage. Like I still want my marriage to succeed. I still don't want to walk through divorce, but if it's the road that God, like if this is the road that my choices have led me to, and he's still beside me, I'm going to walk it.
Wow.
Yeah, man. You said something earlier about like, I don't believe God will break everybody break every man like he broke me, but I'm a firm believer that he will deplete every man like he depleted you to get you to the point to say that, because it was no longer like my needs, me. It was for the first time this pureness of just putting her first, or
and it was
above your needs per se. And I was like, so that depletion point is so crucial, I think, with your walk with Christ first and foremost, and then with your marriage, for sure.
Yeah.
So tell me about the time. So you had that conversation, because I remember the first day you came to church, because I barely knew Michael. Preston had kind of filled me in on what was going on, and I remember going to Preston that morning like, I think Michael's wife. His wife got red hair. It's like, yeah. I was like, dude, she's here with him. So like, how'd you go from that phone call to like she's showing up to church with you?
In a week's time.
I was about to ask the timeline here.
It's a week.
So it was a weird week. Like, I mean, just
understatement.
Come on.
Like, I mean, it was just weird and awkward, and like I believed everything that he said when he said that, but like I was still very messed up.
Sure.
Like,
well, I could even see on your face that first day. I mean, it was a very like.
Yeah. Well, I was
not. Know.
She told me.
I went to Missouri to see, because his sister, like he was talking about how they were so instrumental for him. His sister's my best friend, and she had walked through a similar situation several years prior, and so like she was there for me every step of the way too, which was just really, if it hadn't been for her, I don't know where I would have been. Wow. But so I went to go just spend a day or two, like just to get away and think and verbally process what was going on and everything. And I remember him calling me saying something about the church, because we really hadn't talked about it. It was actually kind of like I knew he had brought the kids with him, but he didn't ask me if he could. And it like annoyed me. It didn't really make me mad. It annoyed me. And he would like casually leave like GC merch sitting out on the counter when I'm not even playing. Like, yes, I see that water bottle, and I'm not going to ask you about it because I know you want me to. So
he's like, hold on while you're talking. Takes a drink.
Turn it around. Oh.
Yeah. So like, I just wouldn't, give him the benefit of having the conversation. But so he finally like could talk to me about it, and he was like, because I didn't know like where, like I knew I needed to go to church, but I didn't know where to go. And he was like, why don't you come with me? And I was like, listen, I was not raised Baptist, and I might go, but like I'm not going to be there long. You just need to know that up front.
She told me that. She said,
ladies and gentlemen, I'm the newest staff member at Generation Church.
I read that information on her face the first day she was there.
You probably could, because she told me, and I don't remember, and she reiterated it. We're pulling on to, what is this, 52 out here?
Yeah.
We're turning from 31 to 52, and she's like, listen, like, we're not going to be at this church. This is not going to be our church
later.
4 years later.
Yeah.
Well, it was very, I mean, walking in, like, I don't know who knows and who doesn't and all that stuff. Absolutely. And I just assume that the world probably does. But, like, I'm not a, like, super emotional person. Like, I don't cry a lot and stuff like that. And I just felt like I was on the verge of tears, like, from the moment I stepped through the door. Like, somebody met me at the door, like, introduced themselves, all that stuff, asked me my name or whatever. And I'm like, just all of it was just weird. Like, there's really happy people here, and I'm not really happy. And we get in the auditorium, and I don't remember like what songs they were playing, but it's like everything was just very personal, very, you know. And I don't know what sermon series we were in, but you were preaching on the prodigal son. And the one thing that like stood out to me that you said was like the father didn't wait for the son to come to him. He ran to him right where he was, like in the mess that he was in. And it was just like I felt God just saying like, I know you're a mess right now. You know, it's okay that you're a mess. Like, I've got you. And, you know, I'm right here where you are. Like, we'll do this together. You know, I didn't feel like I had to be somewhere that I wasn't. Like, I felt like it was just okay to be right where I was. I knew I didn't want to stay there, you know. And so, and I mean, I even felt that like in the church. Like, I felt like it was okay to be not okay.
Yeah.
It was just, nobody ever said that. You know, I didn't have all these conversations with people, but it was like, you could just tell. Like, it was just the environment. And then like, I don't know, maybe a month or two, probably about a month later, I realized that the person who I met, I came back the second week and she remembered my name. And I'm like, well, that's weird. It was Jessica. Yeah.
Doesn't ever forget a name.
Yeah. I know. And I didn't, it was forever
up.
before I realized that she was the pastor's wife. I'm like, she's like standing out here opening a door for something. Like, just like the humility.
Yeah.
You know, leadership flows down. And like, just seeing the heartbeat of the church, like, in a place where we needed it. Like, it was a safe place for us to heal and just be broken for a minute and figure out who we were, who God was, you know. And so I think from that moment, we kind of slowly started putting things back together. He had asked me several times to go to this, I don't know if it was a marriage retreat or what. And I'm like, listen, I think I said this to you. I said, I don't want to be in the same room with you. I'm not going to spend 3 days with you.
Wow.
Like, heck no. And he's like, yeah, just like, you know, like, he didn't push it too much, but he kept bringing it up, and I was like super annoyed. And it was called Marriage Helper. I'm like, that's a lame name. Like, could they not get more creative than that? Marriage Helper. Like,
I wonder what they do.
yeah, right. It just like so dumb, you know. And so it's like naming your dog. Like, really.
Yeah. I like how the two institutions that she like was like shutting down from the beginning, she ended up becoming a part
I'm
of.
telling you, God was breaking off the pride in my life. Okay.
Yeah,
it was a journey.
I had heard about it from, like one of my previous occupations. The man who started the company had came and given a devotional, and I'd heard about it years ago. And one of our friends that kind of walked with me through it and through the whole process, he's like, hey, like, if you guys want to go through this, we will pay for it. Like, we'll give it to you. Like, don't know what's the thing. And it's like, it's really expensive. I'm like, man, I don't want him to have to do that. And like, I brought it up to Kara, like, we're in the middle of everything, and she's right. Like, she's like, I'm not doing that. And I'm like, and because she told me she wanted a divorce, and I kept telling her, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to sign. Whatever, not going to do it. And I told her, I said, hey, if you'll
George
go,
Bush over here.
not going to do it. And I told her this was a total manipulation tactic. I told her, I said, hey, if you'll go to this thing with me, then I'll give you the divorce. I'll sign.
Yeah.
And she was like, no.
I will not be controlled.
Yeah.
Flick your hair? No.
No.
Yeah.
No. And so, but
it was
I
what,
guess,
like 2 months after?
Yeah.
everything?
So that all happened on a Sunday in September of 2020, and then October was really kind of rocky, up and down, like not really knowing. Like, I was still just trying to figure out who I was, like this new thing that I was experiencing, and at the same time, like, try to be okay with where she was, trying to be okay with where she was.
And we were really honest. I mean, like he moved back in knowing I had feelings for somebody else. Like, you know, that's a hard pill to swallow.
Absolutely,
like, he watched me grieve a relationship that I shouldn't have had in the first place.
Sure.
And just like the mental mess of it all. So it was hard. And like, I don't know how long before you brought it up again? Like
I don't know, but it was sometime in October, and then we ended up going through like the first weekend in November.
We just had. This is another thing too. Like our entire, I mean, we'd started coming to GC, but we didn't know anybody here. Like our entire circle of friends and people would just like gone. I mean, people who you thought were going to do life with you, you know, just like, and you know, he has abandonment issues, and everybody's gone, and then I'm like struggling with like, this person's leaving, and where's God? You know, just all the things. Like it was
like as we separated. When we separated, and I was like, no men in my life, like my brother-in-law who lives in Missouri and Preston. But here's the thing, like I was involved in men's ministry. I was involved in worship ministry. I was involved in like discipleship ministry at this other church. And like we separate,
it's all
crickets.
gone. Yeah, it's all gone.
Like they all, and this is how it seemed for me, like they were all like flocking to her, like and making sure she was good, which I'm glad for, like I'm happy for, but like I had nobody.
Yeah.
Like
I didn't even feel like I was getting that.
Yeah. Like I felt so isolated. But like, yeah, November rolls around. We end up going through the marriage helper workshop for the weekend. And even that, like, we fought the entire weekend. Whole weekend. I even, like, looking back on it now, like, this probably isn't, like great husbanding or whatever you want to call it. I was like, hey, we're going to go away for the night. And, like, out on 109, like, there were these, like, teepees, and so we went camping for the weekend in a
It was supposed to be glamping.
It was, they called it glamping. It was not.
It's a lie. Don't buy it.
It's a lie. But, like, we went away from that weekend, like going into it, like, man, like, can we even do this?
Yeah.
Just so much has happened, and people don't talk about these types of things. Right. So, I mean, we felt so isolated even in our struggle. Like, nobody else is struggling with this stuff. Like, we don't know anybody who's actively had an affair or, you know, like any of these things.
Yeah. It's like looking
like
at,
how,
like,
what do you do? Yeah. You know, so much stuff has happened. Where do you even start to rebuild?
It's like looking at a vase that someone just smashed on the floor and saying, like, is it even possible to put it back together? We walked away from that weekend looking like, yeah, we can.
Wow.
It really helped us, first off, like, put language around. It's like a 3-day intensive. Just we've said, like, a workshop. Yeah. It is geared toward, like, couples in crisis. It's not like you don't have to be in crisis to go, but it kind of caters more to that. For a lot of people, it's like a last ditch effort. You know, some people are already separated. There's just any number of things that can bring you. I would say about 70% of the clients, I think, that are at the workshop, there's been some sort of an affair that have affected their marriage. Yeah. So even just being there and realizing, oh, we are not alone, or even the worst off by any stretch of the imagination in this small little room, you know.
But it was at that point, it was online. So
yeah, it was online. You had like these breakout rooms though that they would like break you off into even online. And some of the things that you're hearing people talk about are just like, like we're pretty good in comparison, you know.
Yeah, we're not as screwed up as we thought.
But it's like people are talking about this.
For sure. Yeah.
And they're talking about it, and they're putting language around things that we had struggled with, like some of these cycles and stuff that I knew were happening and I could see. I didn't know if he could see it, but like it's like we're having the language to put around those to even address them in the first place. Because some of this stuff, like, how do you even talk about it when you both don't see it for what it is? So, and a lot of, you know, what they talk about is going back to the root issue. You know, things in childhood that are impacting this, like attachment styles and stuff like that. That stuff's all really fascinating.
Like, I'm super.
If you ever dig into it.
You're going to have to tell me what mine is, my attachment style.
He is very anxious.
I'm very anxious.
Anxious?
Yeah, like when she says I have abandonment issues, like I am so freaked out that like she, even still now, like I still struggle with this. Like I get, it's almost like if she's out of my sight or like whatever, like I get like super jittery that she's just going to leave. And so like, it's not just in my marriage relationship, it's like in my friendships, like with you guys and like my discipleship group, like I'm always like
just never really trust that,
never like, really trusting like that people are like truly meaning what they're saying to me.
Which that all goes back to childhood. and like caregiver relationships and stuff. It's really fascinating if you ever want to.
But like this put language to
Yeah. And I'm very like avoidant. So he's like smothering me. But it was cool though, because it's like I saw that behavior for the first time for what it was. Like I had just thought he was like actually psycho when, he would just like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why? And for the first time, I'm like, okay, like he feels like this is a threat. And so he's trying to hold on for dear life. And so it like even helped me to understand that part of him in a way that wasn't negative anymore. Like that's still not the goal. Like we still want to get, to a place where we're secure, but it just helped me see him like in a whole different light.
Yeah. And it like we walked away like with a sense of like optimism that we hadn't had in a long time.
There was a game plan for the first time.
Like, okay, like, and knowing at the same time, like, that, hey, like, there's still a process that she's having to walk through, with this other relationship. And that sounds weird for some people, that she's having to mourn a relationship, but that's what it was.
Yeah.
Well, you have to
because
grieve.
she had hope.
Well,
like,
and I almost brought that up when she was talking about, I guess the initial you found out, like you're in this in-between world of, you're trying to separate from a 10-year relationship, but also like here's this other thing. So like you find yourself in limbo of like grieving two relationships, and trying to figure that out.
And there was so much focus to like, that was probably one of the hardest things for me afterward. I feel like there was so much focus on the affair and not the 10 years leading up to it. Mm-hmm. Not that caused it. Like I'm not, but that was, like, well, how come we're focusing on all my problems and not, all these other things?
That was like a mistake that I made in our reconciliation, like process and journey here was like, I felt like I had dealt with what I needed to deal with, but like it's almost like we're not mending our marriage. Yeah. We're building a new one.
Yeah, man.
And so like we have to deal with like what's going on the last 10 years. We're not we can't live there anymore. Yeah. We're not ignoring it.
Right.
But like we're going to use the rubble like to fill in some of the holes so we can build the foundation.
Yeah, dude. That's so good. So good.
Do you guys think like, so you're beginning to start building trust back with each other at this point yet?
Yeah. How did you guys go about rebuilding that trust? And
slowly. Yeah. Because there were still parts of me and still like, I mean, I am, gotta be trying to be very careful with how I say this. I tend to be like when I feel out of control, I can become manipulative and deceptive. And so there's still some of that cycle in my life that even up and through the last year of our life that I've had to break. It's like, hey, and Kara will tell me she's very, like, it's so different now, like, dealing with these issues. She's like, have I not proven to you that I'm trustworthy? Have I not proven to you that I'm not going anywhere? You can be honest with me. You can be who you are. Like, you don't have to try to hide from me anymore. Like, and
something though that was kind of a cool moment, at least for me, like there was a situation, I don't know, maybe a couple years ago where like he had lied about something. And I was mad and I was hurt, but I was like, what did I do that I wasn't a safe place for him that he could be honest with me?
Wow.
That was big. So I'm like I'm looking at me, like what am I like doing in our relationship that you still feel, like you can't be totally like there's something, and again, that's not like me trying to take ownership of something he's done wrong, but I think it's so easy to just fix the other person.
Yes.
And yes, maybe you're justified in, like there really are some issues going on, but there's still a part that you play in that. So like, how can I help to create this safe place?
It's where the transformation takes place, right? Where you're both not looking at each other trying to figure out why you're the problem, but it really is going inwardly and saying like, how do I become a better solution for my spouse.
Well, and Brandon, like you were part of this. Like what was my reaction when that happened? Like after like I had lied to Kara, and I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, you confessed it to us.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
like
Our discipleship group.
immediately.
Yeah.
Like it
right
wasn't,
after it happened.
huh?
Like right after it happened.
Literally like right after.
And
it happened.
I saw like it was like he was proactive and like
Mhm.
you
like
know
it's something like you're trying to like I don't like this guy. I almost like freaked out. I'm like I don't this isn't who I am. Like why did I just do this? And like
Yeah.
I even asked like why is this in me? Like why is
Yeah.
this my innate response?
Yeah.
And so there's still like redemption and still
Yeah.
a process that's taking place. But
Yeah.
we did like it was a slow process in
Yeah.
building trust. Because like and there was a moment where I can't remember if we were living in White House still or if we were here in Portland. But like I remember it, and I was honest with Kara about how I was feeling, and she didn't get super defensive. She was cool with she was fine with where I was because we were working through it. Like she had just like suddenly changed a plan, and like she was gonna come home, and she's like, hey, no, I'm gonna go ahead and go to the grocery store, and like it sends me into this tailspin
Yeah.
mentally. I'm like, okay, like what is she doing? Like who's she with? Like what's she and like I told her about it. I think like after she got home, like I told her, hey, when you did this, like you didn't do anything wrong. I didn't want her to feel like she did anything wrong because she
Right.
didn't. She was going to the store.
but it was a conversation.
It was a conversation to where I'm like, hey, I'm trying to be honest about like
That's good, man.
this freaked me out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
So
sent
with
me
that
here.
knowledge, you know, I can because like I just didn't want to make an extra trip out to do so. But like,
yeah.
okay, now that I know this might be a sensitive thing. So like, how can I do that different next time? You know, to make him feel secure.
I think that's so good too that you weren't like, why did you do this?
Mm-hmm.
But it really is like, hey, this is how this made me feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at some point you just have to trust. Like I think
Yeah.
you have to be smart about it and be wise, but like, you know, to just hold this over somebody's head for forever, like you're never going to be able to grow if you can't just have a little bit of faith. And so that's kind of what I think we just went slow, and then, you know, like
Yeah.
little things here and there just kind of built into, you know, some of those moments, like what he said, like where we could just sit down and have a conversation about it. I think all that really helped build like the intimacy and the trust between us.
And there's so many people that like when they go through an affair or they walk through something like some traumatic event, some earth-shaking event in their marriage where like it's one of those things they don't talk about it. They avoid it.
Yeah.
If we had avoided it, we would have exploded. We talked about it, and we still talk about it. Like, and it may sound weird to some people, but like we'll lay in bed at night. Like, and there was like a few weeks ago, I just asked her a question. I'm like, hey, like when we went through this, like, and I can't remember what question it was now, but like I said, when we went through this, like, why this? And like we can talk openly about it because like in the light, like it doesn't. Like, it's not scary.
That's right.
Like,
and I just finished a book called Rumors from Another World by Philip Yancey, and he said, you're only as sick as your darkest secret, and you'll never get over the sickness until the secret is out.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think you're right. I think even, like, walking through the process of you guys understanding, like, hey, there's nothing off limits for me to ask or talk about because that's a part of our healing process, you know. And so
It's something that we do encourage, like with affairs specifically, within like the workshop stuff is like yes, I think it's important to have open conversation, but like sharing things where there's like visuals and stuff is not smart because it's just hard sometimes, you know, for people to.
And I was very intentional with the questions.
I think
did
we were
ask.
very careful about, you know, like the specific details of things, like what we would and wouldn't talk about.
Yeah.
Like things that, and honestly, like this is part of my transformation, like. Because before I would have been the guy that's like, I want to know it all. And now I'm like, it's not going to move us forward.
Yeah.
So, like,
that's
why?
good. That's
Like,
good. Yeah.
And my response to him, or like even before we knew, like what we know now from that, I remember like saying to him, like, you can ask me whatever you want to, but just like, please trust that if I don't feel comfortable answering, it's because I feel like it'll do more damage than good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I wanted us to be able to move forward.
Yeah.
And so it's like we kind of had this mutual trust, even almost in that, like from the get go, like what were we going to talk about? And there's things that, like we just never even talked about. Now sometimes will come up, and it's like, I think self-discovery is a lifelong journey. And so some of us talking about it now is just like going back to go forward.
That's good.
Like, cause you just see things differently, you know, this far out.
Yeah. So that's at the end of 2020, right? Yep. Coming into 2021. Tell me about that year.
We had, so a big part of our life had always been serving in the church, in the local church, because we have always had a heart for the local church. And because like in our marriage, like it was super important for us to serve together. It always has been, but for the first time in our lives, like we sat down and we kind of had a plan. We're like, hey, for a year, we're not going to serve. We're going to heal. And that's what we just wanted,
said
a year.
The reasoning behind it is we just wanted the family to be the focus.
Yeah.
And so, we were both just like, we just threw that out there, like just for a year, like we're going to, not do anything except focus on our family. It's our priority.
And 9 months in, like,
I don't even think it was that long. We're both just like, we need to do something.
Like it was, well, it wasn't, because 2021 was whenever, sometime through the year, we came together and were like, hey, it's time to serve.
Like, I think God had been speaking to both of us separately, and so then we talked about it, and we were both like, like me too.
Like, and it was a big part of our healing process, because in that, like, we built community, and like.
But from day one, we've had this understanding with each other that, like, if ever serving become like, it's a no questions asked. Like, if I need you at home or you need me at home, like, or feeling, like this isn't a thing. Like, I have no doubt that if we've never had to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, it's the opposite. I think we're both wanting the other person because we see that being involved in community is better for our marriage.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, and like, so she starts serving. Did you start on worship first? Okay. So worship, and then she started working with youth with Tyler and them on Wednesday nights.
No, I started with youth first because I was already bringing Braylon.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's why you started, because you were bringing Braylon on Wednesdays anyway. And I started serving on safety, and then Kara stepped into worship, and eventually I stepped back into worship. And so 2021 was a year of new, like it was like learning how to operate as a healthy family. And it was not that it wasn't a hard year, because we were getting over a lot of stuff. Yeah. But like we were healing, like the wound was healing.
It was a different hard from 2020 for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like even at the year mark, it was like, oh, it's been a year. Huh. It wasn't like a lot of people, like, that's a marker moment. For us, it was like,
we'd like lived a lifetime in a year. I mean, it was crazy. And then almost a year. When is Vision Rally normally?
Usually
September?
November.
November? Okay.
It used to be in September, but we moved it to November.
Okay,
so it probably was September that year.
So, because like it wasn't a full year, but came home from Vision Rally, took a pregnancy test, and
as you do,
as you do,
and
just talk like,
make sure you.
It's like the timing of
what are they doing at Vision Rally?
what kind of church is this?
What's in the water there? Yeah.
So
it was like it was almost this like denial, though. I mean, like not in a bad way, but just like, wow, like it. I mean, I prayed like even the very beginning of that, because I did not. I mean, we had 4 kids, and
that was a lot. I mean, it was
a lot, and we just felt
mind
done.
You, like 4 kids, a dog, and us in a 3-bedroom, 1,100 square foot townhouse.
Yeah.
And so, but I never wanted a baby to be like a negative thing, and so even before I like knew, I was praying. I'm like, God, you're going to have to fix my heart. Like, you know what we need. And if this is the case, then I need to be happy and excited about it. And if not, then like, I trust, that you knew what the plan was. And so, I remember telling him about it, like right after that. And it was this like an excitement, not that we weren't excited about the other kids, but it's just, so much had happened,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, this is a new Kara and
yeah.
Michael, right?
Yeah.
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 And so, like, we got to experience that, like, in a different way, you know, the pregnancy, but like all of it in just a completely different way. And it was like
For the
God knew
first-
what we needed, you know?
Yeah.
Like for the first time in our marriage, like Kara had somebody she was walking through it with, not somebody not somebody overseeing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
So good.
and so like we're walking through this together, and I was excited. Like, obviously she tells me, and I'm like, oh, we got 5 kids.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
you
I
said a bad
remember-
word.
Yeah.
If you
I probably did.
Full transparency.
I called Preston, and I was like, hey man, baby number 5 is on the way. And he's like, they have 4 kids, and so like, I mean, he was super excited, and it was an exciting time because like we knew, like that Ezra,
It was
like,
our little reconciliation, baby.
he was like
Yeah,
he was
man.
a gift, man, because
So good.
God was like he saw, because we, like at 4, we're like, yeah, we feel like a complete family. God's like, you're
Complete
about to
army.
walk through it.
Mhm.
You're not like, I'm gonna give you a gift,
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
dude.
a reminder
Yeah,
of
man.
my goodness.
Wow.
And like looking at him and like in the life that he's lived, like when Kara had Ezra, like he was in the hospital for a week because he had jaundice and they were trying to get him healthy, and then he went back into the hospital for a couple days because he had RSV. They sent him home, still had RSV. We went back for another 3 days back in the hospital. And then, like, a year ago, he was in a car wreck. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like every time that something like this happens with him, like, God is reminding us, like, he is a promise.
Yeah, dude.
He is an answered prayer. Like, he is a gift.
Is that how you
Pray we
feel
didn't
at
pray.
3 a.m. when he's keeping you up?
I
He
question
sleeps-
God
you're
sometimes.
driving
He
around.
sleeps side. Yeah, I drive around with. That's the only way I can get him to sleep.
I don't know if he told you about Saturday. He shows up 30 minutes late for a group because, you know, he's been up half the night with Ezra. He comes, he sits down. You can tell me he's just flustered. And he's like, Ezra's a jerk.
That's amazing.
So it's cool to know he's a gift. though,
He is a
too.
gift,
Yeah,
man.
he's
Like,
a
and it
gift.
doesn't mean like I don't want to like send him
It's a
to
jerk,
grandma's
man.
house sometimes. But man, I mean, God, his faithfulness through it all, man. Like being seen.
Yeah.
And
It's
so,
just, it's like a joy in our home. Again, like, not that the other kids aren't, but like it's just a different,
Yeah.
like, there's a different dynamic
Sure.
after having him with everybody. Like, the relationship he has with Braylon, you know, is super sweet and special. Like, it's,
Yeah.
I think it was just so joyful, like,
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah.
like he's really always happy until he's not. But like he's always like smiling and giggling. And, like, he's a goofball. And I honestly, like, I was praying the other morning, and I'm like, God, is that just a reminder of your joy?
Wow.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, bro.
Because like he is like happy all the time, and he'll come up to me and say, I'm daddy's buddy. Yeah, buddy, you are. Like,
That's awesome.
you're my dude. And so like that was in he was born in May of 22. That's right. So
Same year as Chan.
same year as Chandler.
So that's all. So you got new baby, new church. You guys are serving. How long did it take for you to start helping with Marriage Helper?
So everything, we went through the workshop in November. The fall, it's weird. Like, he said, we fought like the whole weekend, but even coming out of that weekend, he was like, I could see you doing this one day. And I could feel it too. Like, just this tug.
Yeah.
Obviously we knew we needed to get like some distance from the crisis, but July of that following year, I started training to lead breakouts.
That's incredible.
And then it's been,
And in
Yeah,
that,
ever
and
since
so
then.
here we are, 2024, and it's been powerful to watch. Like, you know, obviously you've been on the front lines of not only with Marriage Helper helping marriages, but it was so crazy that we had another couple show up at our church that walked through almost the exact same
Almost the
scenario
Exact same thing.
as Michael and Kara did, and then they got to be a part of that restoration process. And you know, Kara served on the prayer team, youth, worship, now in production, and so it's really been incredible to watch the trajectory, and watch you all's transparency, your heart to see other people come to healing and wholeness, to watch prayer conversations, and to see your vulnerability in the fact of like, man, still healing from this. You know, I know there's probably days where it still feels like, man, that was a weird feeling. You know, why is that still coming up? But how you're processing and handling it has been incredible to watch. For people who are listening, and maybe they are in a crisis in their marriage, whether it's an affair, whatever the crisis may be, as we kind of push toward the end here, the conclusion, what's the one or two things you would initially tell a couple that's in this situation? They're hearing your story. What's maybe just one or two pieces of advice that you would give initially to those couples, whether they're contemplating divorce or they're contemplating restoring the marriage?
Well, I remember telling him, and I felt this, like, I felt like he was holding me back. Like, I felt like God was trying to take me somewhere, and he was, like, dead weight. And I may have even used those words.
You did?
Because I'm like, why can you not just, like, get, you know, like, I feel like God has all this calling on me and, like, all this stuff just, like, bubbling up in me. And I'm sitting here and dealing with this. And, like, I was resentful. And it's just so cool to get to run the race together, you know, like, to not feel like, well, I'm outpacing him or whatever, because you can only go as fast as the slowest person. And so, like, I signed up to run this race with him. And so what I would do differently going back is, like, it's not that I never prayed for him, but not the way that I should have, you know, like, I still saw him as a problem. And so, I would just encourage people, like, look within yourself. It's really hard to not focus on the relationship when you're in a crisis or you're in a struggle, because, you know, you're married. But, like, if you can just focus on you, make sure you're physically, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually healthy and whole in and of your, you know, you even talked about that in, I don't remember what series it was, like, the whole, you know, you complete me is bullcrap. Like, you got to be a whole and complete person. Yeah. And I'm not, he's not holding me back. Like, it's just, I have a responsibility toward him to help, you know, like, lift him up when he's weak, or when there's things that maybe I see that he can't. Like, it's not because I'm a better person than him. It's because God has given me this ability as a gift to see into something, because I have a responsibility to pray into that, not because I'm lorded over him or whatever. So that, I'm really passionate about that, and I think that's where I failed.
I love that, because I always tell people God's math is different than our math.
Yeah, man.
Like, you know, it's not a half plus a half equals a whole, you know, and 1 + 1 don't equal 2. 1 + 1 = 1. And I think that is such good advice, because if people, and it's funny because it ties back into earlier in the conversation when you were talking about how, like, because people have the surface level conversations before they get married, they bring a ton of their own attachments and baggage into a relationship that gets thrown onto the other person. And when you don't deal with that stuff, you're stuck, like, dealing with it, you know, yourself. So it's so good. Michael, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. I guess it was December of 2020. I started going to the Monday night men's group. And, I mean, this was like the first or second week there. There's a man that came to the group, and him and his wife are separated, and they're contemplating divorce. And he said, and I'm the new guy in the group, but everything that we had just walked through, like, I knew, like, this was one of those divine appointments to where, like, God was using me. And he said, I don't know why, like, she just can't see, like, that I'm trying. And I straight up asked him, didn't even know the guy. I said, why are you trying? Like, what's your motivation for trying? Because if it's to get her back, it's never going to work. Yeah. It's not. Because if my motivation was to get Kara back, like, that's why I was, like, seeking the Lord, never going to work.
Yeah, dude.
Never going to work. You seek him, and if you find her in the process of that and you reconcile, then that's just gravy on the cake.
That's
So,
good. I've never put gravy on a cake,
Yeah.
but
did I say gravy on the cake?
It's
That's gravy
ice-
on the biscuit.
icing.
you know,
Sounds
icing
like
on
a
the cake.
I
Dustin
mean, it
Thompson
could be
thing.
good. Yeah, it could
That's a
sound.
Dustin
It does sound like
Thompson
a
thing.
Dustin
Or Andy
Thompson
Biggs.
thing. Or,
Dude,
I know.
100% Andy Biggs. Yes.
I know one thing for both of us too that was really important afterward is like there were not very many people in our life, you know, through all that. And so like the couple of people that were so instrumental, and I cannot imagine what it would have looked like had we not had those, I mean like 3
No,
total.
literally.
Probably it was
Literally
pretty
3.
bad. But like just being a safe place for us. And so I know from very early on, like I was praying, like God put somebody in my path because I know you don't
Yeah.
waste anything. Like I
Yeah.
know this wasn't for nothing, and I know that this wasn't just for me.
Yeah.
And it's like every time I turn around, even before marriage helper, like every time I turn around, somebody
Yeah.
it's like one of those divine, you know, appointments.
And if you, like, this is encouragement to, like, anybody that has somebody in their life that is going through this, that is, like, a parent, a friend, like a brother, a sister, like, let them feel what they are feeling.
Mm.
Don't try to tell them
Yeah.
that what they're feeling is wrong.
That's good.
Like, there may come a time for you to help guide that,
Yeah.
but it's not in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Like, you have to let them grieve, and you have to let them, like, feel the emotion of it,
Yeah, dude.
because it sucks. It's not fun. But if I wasn't allowed the opportunity and afforded the opportunity to feel it, I don't think that my attention would have been grabbed like it was.
Yeah. That's so good.
There's something so powerful about just looking at somebody in their brokenness and saying, like, I'm so sorry, that must have really hurt.
Mm.
Like just
And that'd
that,
be
you
it.
know,
Yeah,
like
and
that,
that'd be it.
that's it.
Yeah.
You're not trying to fix anything.
Right.
You're not trying to point them to Jesus. Like, not that that's not bad, but like
Yeah.
he said it earlier, like it's his kindness that brings us to repentance. So
man.
like I can show God's love to you without having to say his name
Yep.
even at all, you
Yep.
know? And again, there's a time and place for all that too, but just sitting with somebody in their mess. We didn't
Yeah.
have anybody to sit with us in our
Yeah.
mess. And so
And Michael, you experienced that firsthand. Remember earlier on, it was kind of like brushed off in a sense, but then as
Yep.
you were getting healing, as you reached out, we mentioned Preston, he sat with you in that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, man.
And it's like experiencing that.
And that's so cool. Like, because I've always been drawn to, like, and I say, like, I've been drawn to ministry. I've been drawn to men's ministry and to youth ministry, and like it's been so cool to see, like now I'm working alongside Tyler in our youth ministry, and like my like one of the goals there is, like, if these young men get free at 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, like, we just saved 15 years of pain.
Yeah, man.
It'll be light years ahead of
Light years ahead of where we are. And
So good.
and so, like, and then, like, like helping the men's ministry, it's like, hey, like, they didn't get ahead of the curve here, and the curveball hit them in the mouth. Like, hey, man, like, there's hope.
Yeah, dude.
There's hope for you to pick up the broken pieces of the vase that's all over the floor.
Well, what's cool, a lot of people say, like, hurt people, which is true. But what
Yeah.
I also tell people is heal people, heal people.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
think you guys have been so instrumental. Like, our men's ministry and student ministry and women's community wouldn't be the same without y'all. Because I think anybody that knows you in our church, like, you guys have been instrumental in growing all of those aspects of community. And so what's cool is, like, you didn't just say, like, we need community. We understood, like, yes, we need community, but we also need to be what we need. And you guys have been that for so many people. Like, that's what's cool is, like, there are going to be people who listen to that podcast, they're going to be blown away because they had no idea that Michael and Kara walked through this. And I think that's so stinking cool because they're like, oh my gosh, like, they have been such a light for me and my family. And if God can use their story, like, it gives people hope.
Yeah.
it's
So-
cool, but it is sad in the same sense that like why are we not talking about this stuff more? You know, like I mean, it's a big church, so like there's
Sure.
people you're just never going to get to talk
Sure.
to, but like I think this is so much we need to normalize like
Yeah.
the actual issues that we're dealing with and that we're struggling with, and it doesn't
good.
even make you
Well-
less of a Christian. It's like we
Right.
are all human and we're all broken
Absolutely.
and we're all one mistake away from being right here, you know. So like how can we help equip each other to
Yeah.
like
When we say
just
normalize
get it out there?
Yeah, when we say normalize it, we don't mean that everybody needs to go out and have an affair. Don't do that.
I think we
like-
understood that. Yeah.
Don't do
You
that.
know, you've been
but
in
like,
churches that
yeah.
they can't even say sex or
Right.
pornography
Right.
or
Normalize the conversation.
Normalize
about
the-
your struggles
normalize
in the
the
past.
idea.
there are
Yeah.
people who are still hung up on the fact that you said masturbation earlier. Guarantee you, right now.
Yeah,
Yep.
probably.
It's
Yeah.
well, like what, like normalize the idea that like it's okay that people are jacked up.
Yeah.
That's what, like, whenever we talk about it, like one of the big deals for us to have our home is like we both said it from the time we reconciled in our marriage. We want our home to be a place where people that are not okay can come and be not okay.
Mm.
A place where they're going to be loved, and a place where they're going to be able to have a meal, and the place whenever that they don't feel like anybody sees them, they're going to be seen, and that they're going to feel like, hey, like this is a safe place.
And I can like they mean that because like since you've been moved in, like I've come to your house and sat out on your front porch and had conversations with you, Michael. So like
Can't wait for
anybody,
that.
Anybody
Michael.
listening, yeah, sick
Anytime
invite.
the porch light is on.
Like
You're
what
welcome.
my point is, they mean that 100%
Yeah.
because I've experienced that myself. So, that's the alarm.
That's the alarm.
Someone
Don't know anyone be alarmed.
Yeah.
Juan's
Little
going to handle
alarm.
that.
yeah.
Somebody
maybe
doesn't
that
know we're
gets,
here.
maybe that
We-
gets edited out.
Yeah,
Talk
we can
too
edit that
much.
out. We can edit that out. Well, that brings it to the full circle moment,
Yeah.
which is cool. We started the episode talking about you guys getting a house, and you see like, man, apartment separated, separate places, back to confined apartment to now a home that is another gift of the reconciliation.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
I can't thank y'all enough.
Thank
I
you
know,
for-
like we've been trying to set this up for a while and just talking through. We've had I've tried to really just make sure you guys were comfortable and having all the conversations. And so thank you for allowing us to do this. Cause again, I think your heart is the same as mine. Like I want people to hear real stories of hope and redemption. And, if we can help people get to the root of their issues, they can see the fruit of healing.
Yeah, man.
So thank you guys. Love y'all so much.
you guys.
Honored to be a part of your life.
Thank you for allowing us the platform.
Yeah.
Because it means a lot.
Until then, if you want the fruit, got to get to the root.